Hey guys, and welcome to my channel. My name is Nick O'Leary, and today we've got a user's guide on your sat-nav in your Mercedes. Now, as always, as there are so many different models out there, more specifically, this video relates to a sat-nav called COMAND. And the way to identify it is when you go to use the sat-nav, keep an eye out on the bottom right-hand corner where it says the words destination. Quite simply, this is how you start and stop it, but of course there's a lot more to it. So this is your user's guide on COMAND. So then guys, the basics, firstly how to control it. So it's actually controlled using a wheel in the middle of the car, and most of the time with COMAND you'll also have a touchpad here. Now I personally prefer the wheel, but of course you can nudge the wheel up and down, spin it round left and right, click it in on the thing you want to go to. There's also a back button here to go back a step as well. Touchpad has the same thing, just swipe up and down like this, swipe left and right, click it in on the thing you want to go to, and then again, back button just on the bottom left. I'm going to use the wheel just because that's my preference, but of course use whichever one works for you. So first and foremost, let's cover how to get the sat-nav going, programming home, and some of the more basic things. So, as I briefly mentioned at the start of the video, to start and stop the sat-nav, you'll always go to the bottom right-hand corner of that screen there where it says destination. The other things over on the left here, as I'm just highlighting across some more advanced things, I'll touch on a couple of them in this video, but the basics for starting and stopping is on destination. So I'll click that in on here. So then you'll be presented with this screen. Now, of course, saving your home and navigating to postcodes and that sort of thing are all done on address entry. So we'll start with that one first. If I click that in, it will then ask you which country you want to visit, town, street, or maybe the postcode. Most of us in the UK use the postal code, so let's do that one. If I click on here and then just literally type in the postcode by spinning the wheel around. So if I do BH15 2BD. As I spin the wheel round, it'll actually get rid of the numbers and letters that don't exist, so it just makes it a bit easier to type in. Oh, and in case you need to type in a space, it's over there, just to the left-hand side of the OK button. There we go, we found a match, so that's the postcode for literally just over there. So click in here, and in some cases you can type in a street or a house number, but I know where that postcode is, so what we would usually do is just go straight to start. However, before that, if you want to save it, just go to the bottom right-hand corner there, click it in. Now on here, you can save it as a new contact, which basically you can put in a kind of custom name or something like that. But if you save it as my address, that will save it as your home address. So just tap that and then it will say saving successful. So now that we've saved the home, let's go to start.
Your route is being calculated.
So first and foremost, let's cover how to mute the sat-nav. There may be some instances where you kind of know where you're going and just want the visual element on the screen. So to mute it, depending on your model of Mercedes, there's a couple of ways. The first way is by pressing the mute button when the sat-nav talks to you. I'll do that here, so if I get the sat-nav to talk to us.
In 100 yards, please turn.
Just going to press the mute button on the steering wheel and it will mute the sat-nav for the duration of that journey. So that's quite an easy way of doing it. And what's clever is it won't mute the radio. So if you press the mute button, it will only mute what's making noise at that moment in time, if that makes sense. The alternative way is by pressing this button here using the wheel. However, on some earlier versions of the command, it just repeats the sat-nav, so you have to do the mute button on the steering wheel. But some of the newer ones you can mute using the screen, so it does vary, but just I'd probably say use the one on the steering wheel because that will cover across all models. And then finally, to cancel the sat-nav, in case you know where you're going exactly, just go to destination in here, because that's how we started it, and you'll notice there's a new button at the top that says cancel route guidance. So if I go onto that one, click that in, that will cancel the sat-nav entirely. Now, one thing I should add with this one as well is that the menu will stay there like that, but if you want it to go full screen, just nudge the wheel up, and then you'll see like this button illuminate with the arrows getting bigger. You can click it in and it will make it full screen. Now, as you start to save favourites and things like that onto the sat-nav, just bear in mind all of your sat-nav favourites are actually saved in destination and in contacts. So some Mercedes do actually copy across the contacts of your phone book if you have the address there, which is quite clever. But just remember that is your favourites where it says contacts, and previous destinations are of course all the ones you've been to recently. So if I go in here, there should be one in there which I just navigated to. Yep, there we go, and quite easy to access. So what about some more advanced things, maybe like voice commands? So yes, you can actually give voice commands to this system as well, among many other things. In fact, I have actually made a video on the top 10 commands for that voice command system. I'll pop that up above. However, I'm just going to focus on the sat-nav ones and some of the more basic ones you can do on this system today. So the way to use it is on the right hand side of the steering wheel, we've got like a picture of a person with a mouth speaking with some kind of lines coming out. All you do is press this, wait for the beep, and then say an exact command you see on the screen. Now, one thing to note that these commands are preset by the system, so it's not connected to the internet, so you have to say those preset commands. And quite handily, the most common ones actually come up on the screen. So let's do a nice easy one that's like last destinations that I did a minute ago. Last destinations.
Please select a line number.
1.
Number 1 accepted. Starting route guidance.
There we go, as easy as that. This one also works as well if you want to give directions to a specific postcode. So just remember, you do need to say single digits and letters. So for example, I've got BH15 2BD for just over here. Make sure you say BH15. So let's do that. Enter postcode.
Please say the complete postcode using single digits and letters.
BH152BD.
Please select a line number.
1.
Number 1 accepted. Would you like to enter a street?
No.
Starting route guidance.
There we go.
Your route is being calculated.
Now, quite a common question that comes up are the kind of recommended settings for route settings. So like fast route, shortest route, eco route, that sort of thing. So these are my recommended settings to get you from A to B as quickly as possible, utilising the live traffic, but more on that in a minute. So if you nudge down to bring up the kind of menu system here, if you go to settings and then go to route settings, in here you'll see there's fast route, dynamic route, eco route, short route, and that sort of thing. Basically, fast route is going to be the quickest route, but dynamic route is the quickest route with live traffic. So I'd recommend you have that one on. Eco route basically kind of, well, takes you the long way round, but it will kind of keep you on as most economical roads as possible. So like in between 40 and 60 miles an hour, around about that kind of road speeds. And then short route will basically take you almost as the crow flies. So say for example, you're going to travel from one side of London to the other. Most of the time it's probably quicker to go around the outside of London on the motorway, but if you do short route, that'll take you straight through the middle. Shorter, less mileage, but it might take you a lot longer. So I definitely say use dynamic route, which brings us neatly onto live traffic. So live traffic is actually renewed via the Mercedes Me store. So if you don't know what Mercedes Me is, say you've just bought a car, I do urge you to check out the video on the pop-up banner up above. In a nutshell, basically Mercedes Me runs things like live traffic and use of a thing called a Mercedes Me app. This does vary quite a lot, but if you have just bought a car, get in touch with your local Mercedes-Benz and get it linked to your account, because the last thing you want is having it linked to someone else's account. But that is actually how you renew your live traffic, so pop over to the Mercedes Me store and you can check out the pricing and that sort of thing. And then lastly, updating the maps. So with this particular system, what you have to do is get in touch with your local Mercedes-Benz, and it will need to be booked in with a technician in their workshop for them to do a map update. Now, I don't know what the latest map update was, because obviously this system is no longer in kind of new cars, so just get in touch with your local Mercedes-Benz and they can let you know what the latest map is available for this particular system called COMAND. So there we go then guys, that concludes this week's video on the user's guide on COMAND. But let me know if you have any suggestions for any future videos you'd like to see, pop them in the comment section down below and I might just consider your suggestion. Huge shout out to these guys, Sandown Mercedes-Benz, as they help provide access to all these awesome cars you see in the videos. So a huge shout out to them. But guys, thank you so much. Until next week, see you then.